Hello and welcome to your virtual day trip. I'm Annalise and this is Luna, and we're buzzing with excitement to explore Ewell with you,
where we'll dive into its rich history and discover what makes this place special.
Plus, we'll meet some wonderful locals who'll share their knowledge and show us why Ewell Village truly is a hive of activity.
Oh, it sounds intriguing, Annalise. Come on, let's get started.
Welcome to Ewell, a charming village known as Ewellia in ancient times. This picturesque settlement blossomed by the River Hogsmill.
With its rich tapestry of history and vibrant community spirit, Ewell has transformed from a bustling medieval market town to the delightful village cherished today.
Join us as we journey through the stories, landmarks and the unique character that makes Ewell a hidden gem in Surrey.
Bourne Hall, just off the High Street, has it all going on. Set in wonderful grounds, the main building bears a strong resemblance to something from outer space.
Before this iconic building, Garbrand Hall, built by Philip Rowden in the 1770s, stood on the same site. It was a private residence until around 1860, when it became a school for about 50 years, after which time it fell into disrepair and was demolished in 1962.
After which time Bourne Hall was built. Inside you'll find the Museum of Epsom and Ewell and your library. Let's meet Yeva, one of the library team, who can tell us what's on offer.
I personally really like working in Ewell and Bourne Hall. I think we are very lucky to be based in this building. It's got lots of history behind it. We've got the beautiful grounds outside, a river trail, a museum upstairs, wonderful cafe as well. It's just lovely, really. Here at Ewell Library, we do lots. Our library is not just a library anymore. It is a social hub. It is a warm welcome space in the winter. It is a safe space overall. We offer books, we do book clubs, we do adult story time, author visits, free hot drinks in winter. We offer also free feminine hygiene products for those who need them.
Thanks, Yeva. You certainly have a lot happening here. What a great reason to pop over to Ewell and discover all that's on offer inside Bourne Hall, including the amazing Performing Arts Library.
We're off to meet one of the many groups that run activities here. Arthur's here to tell us about the Parkinson's UK karaoke group. Get ready for a sing-along.
I'm the chairman of the Sutton, Kingston and Epsom branch of Parkinson's UK. There are branches all over the country. We're one of the largest branches in the country, definitely. We've got over 200 members. And one of the best things about the karaoke group that you're visiting today is what we call speech and language therapy. Because 70% roughly of people with Parkinson will lose their voice. Yeah, it's one of 40 symptoms. There are 40 symptoms in Parkinson's condition, we call it, not disease. Singing really helps your chest, your neck, your throat, all the muscles there. And as you can see also, people get together, they meet each other, they talk, they give each other confidence. And I know there are one or two quite lonely people in there, and this is the hub for them to meet people every other Friday. It's every second and fourth Friday in the month, and we come to Bourne Hall here, and we come every first Wednesday in the month to have a speaker or something like that, or African drumming. Our main aim in the branch is to improve the quality of life of local residents and local people, and this certainly helps towards that. As you can see, it's very happy, very jolly. There's usually between 20 and 40 people that come every other Friday, so it's very, very popular. And if people say, well, I can't join because I can't sing, I said, well, if you can sing, you're not allowed. It's a bit of fun.
Thanks, Arthur, and what a treat to see the members and volunteers of this lovely group coming together.
It's a good reminder to have a sing-along and raise our spirits. There are also plenty of other groups who meet here, so you're bound to find an activity that suits you.
Let's pop upstairs and explore the museum that showcases Epsom and Ewell's heritage.
You can take the stairs or the lift to the first floor and enjoy some of the brilliant exhibits, from a beautiful old carriage to statues and incredible brass rubbings.
These look like the toys from your childhood, Luna.
You're not wrong, Annalise. I could stay and play here all day. But we need to go and meet Jill, a local resident in Ewell, who can tell us more about the area.
Ewell Village is a great place to live. It's got two stations, one Ewell West and one East Ewell, and they between them service Waterloo, Victoria and London Bridge, so there's no difficulty getting here at all. If you're not keen on the trains, you've got buses, and we've got buses that serve all the local areas, Kingston, Sutton, Epsom, and if you like the tube, you can get the 293 to Morden. Ewell Village has actually got, or had, a ghost here. It was first discovered actually by my husband. He was interviewed for a job at the local estate agents in a different village. And so on the Sunday before he was due to start, he came and had a look round to see exactly where the office was. And after that, he settled happily into life in the estate agents. And after about 3 weeks, he happened to mention to the office, asking where was the girl who lived upstairs. And they said, what girl? He said, well, the girl who lives in the top flat. And they said, there's no one up there. In fact, there's no access to that. It's bricked up. So it was the typical Victorian ghost, dressed in a white dress, long blonde hair. So yes, Ewell is famous for its ghosts.
Oh, Jill, you sent shivers down our spines. But before we get spooked anymore, let's head outside to meet David, the Epsom and Ewell Museum assistant.
We're meeting him down by the lake, a wonderful reminder of how Ewell's water supply historically relied on natural springs, particularly the Ewell Springs.
It's the reason why Ewell exists. Ewell is an Anglo-Saxon name, and it's either pronounced Etwell or Ewell. If you talk to people who don't know the place, they will actually often say Ewell, which is very close to the Saxon pronunciation. That it actually means the people who live at the start of the river, and this is actually the start of the Hogsmill River, which runs all the way up to London Bridge. People have been settling in the area we now call Ewell for probably at least 50,000 years. We have evidence, archaeological evidence. During the Bronze Age, about 3,500 years ago, the spring becomes a sacred place. They start throwing offerings into the spring to appease their gods. Now, if you imagine you live in a world where you don't know what you look like, there are no pictures, there's no photographs, there's nothing. You roll up and you look at a bit of clear water and you look in and you see somebody looking back at you, you go, oh my God, it must be a god. And you've got to appease these to actually, have a safe and good life, perhaps get somebody cured or whatever. And so they threw in bronze axe heads, and these are the equivalent of throwing the value of a modern sports car away. As time progresses, during the Iron Age, before the Romans come, somebody threw in 2 gold stater coins, which is about £500 worth of gold in modern standards, but that's equivalent to throwing about £500,000 away at that time. So there were very wealthy people in Ewell, even in the Bronze Age. When the Romans turn up, it goes on a commercial basis. The Romans push a road through the edge of Ewell called Stane Street, which is actually what the Saxons call it, because it means a stone road. It's so different from all the mud trucks that even 600, 800 years after the Romans are gone, it's still there. And in fact, local legend has it that William the Conqueror watered his horses at the springs at Ewell on the way to being crowned in Westminster Abbey.
One of the entrances close to the lake is the renowned Dog Gate, built by Thomas Hersey Barrett, owner of the Garbrand Hall from 1796 to 1817.
There are many theories as to why he chose a dog, but dogs were often seen as guardians of estates and properties, serving to protect both the land and its inhabitants.
We've created a wonderful craft activity inspired by the Dog Gate.
Colouring is a wonderful way for everyone to relax, so let's take a moment to colour in our Dog Gate postcard together. You will need a printout of the postcard, some colouring pencils, scissors, a glue stick or some tape. Step 1. Colour in your postcard. Choose different colours, whatever you fancy, it doesn't have to be realistic. Step 2. Once you've finished colouring, cut out the postcard. Step 3. Fold it in half along the dashed line and glue it together. Press down firmly into the corners to make sure it doesn't lift up. Step 4. Write a lovely cheerful note to a friend, inviting them to enjoy the Ewell virtual day trip, or why not, plan a visit together. So pick up your colouring pencils and enjoy a few moments of relaxation.
As we move through the grounds of Bourne Hall, you'll see that there are great places to sit, have lunch and relax with some music.
As we step through the gate, you'll see the tranquility of the water to our right, and then we cross over the sometimes busy road as we head down to the Hogs Mill. There's a great walk along the river here, all the way to Kingston. Keep your eyes peeled for the local wildlife on the way. There's plenty to see.
We're looking out for David, who can tell us more about the industrious industries that operated here along the Hogs Mill.
Ewell has 2 mills which actually appear in the Domesday Book. So they've been here since 1086 and were here in the Saxon period, obviously before that. They were very key to the survival of the village. I mean, Ewell still in Victorian times had 21 farms in the area, so they've got to process the grain into flour. The second mill, which is the lower mill, this is the upper mill behind us. The lower mill in the 1700s changed its use from grinding flour to actually making paper, and it was taken over by a firm called Jubb, and Jubb actually made all the paper for the Bank of England for banknotes. A bit further up the Hogs Mill River we actually have gunpowder mills.
Operating from the late 1700s to the late 1800s, these mills harness the power of the River Hogs Mill. Gunpowder making is a risky business, and explosions did happen, resulting in the loss of many workers' lives.
We're stepping away from the Hogs Mill now and walking up Mill Lane just across the road.
Here, the charming buildings are a delightful blend of Georgian and Victorian architectural styles.
Among these historic gems, at the top stands the magnificent St Mary's Parish Church, a prominent landmark that has been the cornerstone of the community for generations.
The tower of the original church stands on this site, but the church you see today was built in 1848, after the Reverend of the time, Sir George Glynn, instructed a new church to be designed and built.
Let's meet David in the churchyard.
This part here was the farmyard to a place called Rectory Farm. Rectory Farm is a very old farm building, but it was owned by a guy called Mr Holman. Mr Holman had no relatives, and he had some poor relatives up in London who decided that if we name our son after him, he will probably leave him all his money. So he did this, and the vicar got the name wrong when we christened him, and instead of actually christening him Hobman Hunt, he christened him Holman Hunt, and Holman Hunt went on to be one of the founders of the famous pre-rough light art movement, and he would come and actually stay with his aunt and uncle in Rectory Farm. He drew Rectory Farm quite often. He painted several very famous pictures in Ewell along the Hogs Mill River, one called the Highland Shepherd, the other one which is the Light of the World, which is a picture of Jesus holding a lamp up inside in the dark, and he would go out at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning to get the light right with a candle over there, and people actually were totally convinced he was a ghost. They dispatched a village constable to actually sort this ghost out. Policemen had no trouble finding him and would meet him every night and have a smoke, and would never actually tell people that it wasn't a ghost, so they carried on. So Holman Hunt lived here. When he went up to London, he actually met Millay, one of the other founders of the pre-rough art movement, who was actually living in Ewell, but they never met while they were in Ewell. They met up in London, and Millay painted one of his most, the setting of one of his most famous paintings of Ophelia in the Hogs Mill River. Behind me is the old church tower, the original church tower of St Mary's. Now, we're in the original cemetery of St Mary's Churchyard, which has 200 graves in, but everyone who's been died in Ewell basically since before the Norman Conquest is buried here. So there's actually tens of thousands of people buried in this graveyard. It's one of the reasons why it's actually a lot higher than the local surrounding graves, because it's packed full of people. The church extended out across here, and we know exactly what the original church looked like because Holman Hunt painted it. Holman Hunt turned up one day and started painting it, and the vicar, one of the Glyn's family, came out and he said, well, if it's any good, I'll buy it off you. And so Holman Hunt rather carefully worked in a couple of the vicar's children. So the vicar bought it and it disappeared. And when part of the Glyn's property was sold down Church Street, it turned up in one of the ovens of this old malt house, and they sold it for £25,000, which is what they paid for the building. It was then bought by Andrew Lloyd Webber. It's now valued at £3.5 million, but it's an absolute brilliant record of what the church tower looked like. Also, for many years there was a sign on the churchyard saying dangerous building, do not enter. During World War II a bomb fell in the churchyard, destroying several graves. You can still shrapnel marks on some of the tombstones, and the only thing that fell off the building was the sign saying dangerous building. Now, if we were standing here 2,000 years ago, we would be stood in the middle of the Roman road Stane Street, which ran from the south coast to London. It actually, interestingly, if you actually take the theory that Roman roads are in straight lines, it shouldn't be here. It should run down the side of Nonsuch Park, go through the grounds of Bourne Hall. But they obviously diverted it away from the sacred spring because they didn't actually want to affect the spring. So they diverted it round here. It goes underneath the church, out through the village, the other way underneath Sainsbury's, and out via East Street. It may be the church is actually built on Stane Street because it was a good old solid foundation to build it. Ewell developed in one of the biggest Roman settlements in Surrey, and the settlement spread out along Stane Street as people tried to get the business of the travellers first. And I mean, we have an awful lot of archaeology, we have an awful lot of proof that there's a lot more eating and drinking going on than you would get in a normal domestic situation. We get these big amphoras, big jars full of wine, olive oil, and this rather horrible fish paste that the Romans used to use, a bit like ketchup.
Well, it's not lunchtime yet. There's still plenty to explore in Ewell Village.
You'll see plenty of footpaths and links to established routes, so you'll never get bored in Ewell.
I see what you did there, Annalise. Now, we're walking further into the village and into the Grove.
As with various buildings in the area, stone from Nonsuch Palace was used in the construction of Ewell Grove House, built in the late 18th century, and it can still be seen in the wall here.
I love that materials were repurposed, and how grand to say that part of your wall used to be a palace.
Ewell resident and estate agent Mark, husband of Jill, who we met earlier, has a tale to tell us about the house.
The gentleman who had the house built was slightly peculiar in the sense he didn't want to see deliveries turn up at the front door. So when he built the house, he arranged for underground tunnels to go the length of about 200 feet to Ewell High Street, so they could service the house.
David has another building to show us.
Hopefully a tea shop.
Not quite, Annalise.
We're now standing inside Ewell's watch house. It served originally as a prison. If you did something wrong within Ewell, you would be rounded up by the watch, who had the same historical route as the neighbourhood watch, same idea. You would have a village constable and you would have half a dozen men who would back him up to make arrests. You were locked in here, you were given no food or drink, and there's a lovely story of one guy who was locked in the prison here overnight and he was terribly thirsty. His mates were outside and they trotted off and got him a pint of beer. When they got back, they couldn't actually give him the beer because of the narrowness of the bars. And so what they did is they got his clay pipe, he stuck it in the beer and sucked the beer through his clay pipe so he could actually drink it. In this site at a later date, they kept the village fire engine Now the village fire engine was told as being old in 1770, and we actually have it now in Bourne Hall Museum. You can see it there. There was a problem with this, it was horse-drawn, so if it was needed, they would actually have to get a horse from the field, bring it down here, hitch it up, take the fire engine to somewhere near a watercourse so they could fill the fire engine up. And of course, by the time they got there, the houses were quite well alight. If you didn't actually have the right fire insurance with the right company, they wouldn't put it out anyway. So it was quite a dicey business.
Thanks, David. A good reason to always make sure your house insurance policy is valid.
A few doors up from the watch house is St Michael's Spiritualist Church. Mark can tell us more about it.
In the centre of the village, in Church Street, we have a spiritualist chapel called St Michael's. And about 40 years ago, as a youngish estate agent, I was instructed to sell the house adjoining to St Michael's that was owned by the spiritualist lady who provided hands-on in the chapel. She owned the house, she had to sell the house for various reasons to do with the family, and so we put it on the market for sale, and lo and behold, the head of Chrysler Europe, the car company from America, were buying roots, and so he came down to have a look at the house one Saturday with his wife, and he went to the front door with his wife and myself and was greeted by Tui, who put her hand out to shake his, and they shook hands, and she said to him, "Sir, you're a spiritualist," and he said to her, "Madam, and so are you." And so there was that instant bond, which one would never expect to see happen. And there it is, those hidden depths and the wonders of the world and Ewell Village.
Thanks, Mark. Another hidden gem in Ewell Village is its community of beekeepers.
In fact, beekeeping in the UK has a rich history that dates back to at least the Bronze Age.
As I mentioned earlier, Ewell Village really is a hive of activity. Now, let's meet Stuart from Epsom Beekeepers Association here in Ewell to tell us more about this historic practice.
We are a charity which is involved in promoting the art of beekeeping and educating the public about beekeeping in general and the importance of keeping bees. And this is both our teaching apiary and our clubhouse. Anybody can come and join us. We teach beekeeping here, and we take honey and we sell honey to the public. Anybody can be a beekeeper. If you're over 18, you can join our club. We're part of the National British Beekeepers Association, which has got over 30,000 members. We ourselves have 100 members, and we're always looking for more. You can come along and see what it's like to be a beekeeper by taking part in one of our taster days, where we'll give you a brief rundown of the bee, the wonderful bee, and what it does, and we'll also give you a bee suit and you can go and get close to the bees and see what they do. Bees are wonderful creatures. In fact, they're the only bee insects that overwinter as a colony. That's what they're unique. Other insects like wasps and bumblebees, they have big colonies during the summer and then they shrink down to a single queen. But bees overwinter, and they manage to do that by producing honey. They produce more honey than they actually need, and so beekeepers can take that honey and use it to sell themselves, but a bit of payback for caring for them. But bees also produce beeswax, which you can turn into candles. I think if you ask someone to draw a beehive, they would draw the traditional WBC hive that you see here. And this is a very popular hive, but it's not the ones that mainly use. As spring approaches and the weather warms up, you'll see more beekeepers who've been itching to get into their hives all throughout the winter. They'll start coming along, and we will do what we call the first inspection to have a look to make sure that our bees have survived the winter. We will put on our bee suits, which are protective overalls really, with gloves and a mask with netting that many people will be familiar with. We put that on, and that's really just to help us protect us from stings. Beekeeping they're not like pets. It is really animal husbandry. We're effectively bee farmers, for want of a better phrase. So bees can sting you, and part of the art of beekeeping is really to be very careful, very gentle with the bees. So part of the process is you put your bee suit on, and then you light a smoker, and we use a smoker to calm the bees down, basically. Bees react to smoke as any animal or any human. They think there's a fire, so the workers will rush to eat some honey, and when they eat the honey, they are, again, like human beings, they're that much calmer and happier. So that you smoke them just to calm them down and settle them down, and sometimes to clear them from certain areas. So we put together our smoker, and then we have what we call a hive tool, which is an implement that you can use to manipulate the various frames within the hive itself. And the hive has got the frames. A man called Langstroth discovered the thing called the bee space, and that enabled us to, it's the space that the bees run up and down within a natural hive, and by making frames within a hive, you can manipulate the bee colony itself, and we use our hive tool for that. We harvest the honey. Sometimes you get a good flow in the spring, first flow, so you can get a first flow. Mainly it's in July, August time when you start to do that. So we will look at each individual hive. We'll check to see that they've got sufficient honey to survive the overwintering, and then we'll take maybe 1 or 2 supers, and we will harvest that. You do that by sequestering the bees. Basically, we have special boards that you put in between the brood and the supers, and that enables us after a certain time to take those supers off, and then we will extract the honey, and that's great fun. That's really is good fun. Messy, but good fun. And honey is essentially the essence of the local area. Because the bees go anywhere up to 3 miles, they'll be visiting all sorts of places, but it really is gathering honey from the trees and the plants, the flowers, whatever culture is around here, and they make the honey. So if you bought honey from us, you're essentially sampling a taste of the local area.
And that brings us to the end of our delightful Ewell virtual day trip.
I've loved hearing from everyone, and I'll be buzzing home to make a delicious honey cake.
Meeting so many fascinating people has been a wonderful experience. We hope you've enjoyed exploring Ewell with us too. Until next time!
This virtual day trip was created by Whistlestop Arts.
It was commissioned and funded by Epsom and Ewell Borough Council. Thank you to everyone who has supported this project.
For more free resources and information about the work we are involved in, please visit whistlestoparts.org.